Welcome to a Legendarium special about Ingsoc, the ruling party in George Orwell's 1984. In this episode, we will learn about the history of the party which seized power in Orwell's dystopia. George Orwell wrote 1984 in the years following the destruction of Hitler's Germany. At the time of its publishing in the Soviet bloc, men built a totalitarian system and forced generations to live and die within its iron borders. At the time, many wondered if the Soviet Union, which marched to the gates of Berlin, might make it to Paris or even London. In his novel, George Orwell likely imagined something similar to the Communist Party, which dominated life in the Soviet Union. Ingsoc, or English Socialism, is the totalitarian political party of Oceania in George Orwell's 1984, which renamed England Airstrip 1. Smith is 39 years old and has only dim memories of life before Ingsoc. They likely took control sometime around the year 1950, yet no one is quite sure when they seized power. Smith has only dim memories of the war which likely brought Ingsoc to power. He remembers his father disappearing and hiding from air raids in underground shelters with his mother and baby sister, something likely inspired by the real-life London Blitz of 1940. The family often went without food, and Winston Smith stole some chocolate from them and ran away, never to see them again. In official propaganda, Ingsoc claims to have overthrown greedy capitalists who oppressed and overworked the people. It is only known for certain that the party seized power during the establishment of the superstate of Oceania, with Big Brother as figurehead. It is debated whether or not Big Brother is, or ever has been, a real person, or if he is just a symbol for the regime. He is a dark-haired, mustached man in his mid-40s who features on posters and videos around Winston Smith's city. Smith himself recalls that he never heard of Big Brother until 1960, yet stories about him now appear in histories going back to the 1930s. Ingsoc targeted Airstrip 1 in a political purge which caused the disappearance of many thousands around the year 1964. It began as a backlash against the original leaders of Ingsoc's revolution, but many others became caught up in the dragnets. Winston Smith's mother vanished in this purge, and he knows for a fact that Ingsoc fabricated evidence against many of those arrested. It is thus possible that the political purge which destroyed Winston Smith's mother was also related to bringing Big Brother, or at least the faction which used Big Brother, to power. A lesser terror continues into 1984, with party members being occasionally purged and enemies of the state being paraded through the streets. Much like the Nazi and Soviet regimes, Ingsoc reaches into the innermost lives of those under its control. Children are indoctrinated into the junior spies, likely inspired by Hitler Youth, who monitor adults for thought crime. If mothers do not let children attend hangings of the party's enemies, they could well vanish, and parents are now afraid of their own zealous children. Ingsoc also sponsors a group called the Junior Anti-Sex League, which aims to reduce intimate relations into a duty to the state. Relations between couples should not center on love or lust, but making new party members. It becomes clear as the book progresses, especially in the third act, that the gathering and use of power over everyday people is what the party strives for. Everything else is simply a means to an end. Other ruling families or parties have included some appeal to the general good in their impulse to rule. Some have played at being philosopher kings, or priest kings, or scientist kings, with a program of generosity, at least on paper. Ingsoc disposes with any such nonsense. Importantly, it is not only the control over what people do, but what they think. Through the creation of Newspeak, the government is whittling down the English language, removing words they believe could lead to rebellion. They create shortened versions of words like Ingsoc, thinkpole, and unperson. After all, if the government can control what people think, there is no way that someone would think themselves into a different opinion of Big Brother or Ingsoc. Without words like rebellion or free speech, one will lose the ability to imagine such things. A man named Syme is writing the Newspeak dictionary during the book, and Smith believes that his keen intelligence will eventually make him an unperson. Everything under Ingsoc is an obvious lie, with the names of various groups in blatant contradiction of what they do. The Ministry of Love carries out brainwashing, the Ministry of Truth changes history to suit the party, and the Thought Police arrest those guilty of thought crime. Indeed, Winston Smith is not even sure if it is the year 1984. Under Ingsoc, the 2 minutes hate is a central part of everyday life. This hatred, the only time citizens are allowed to feel strong emotion, is directed against Emanuel Goldstein, described as having a sheep-like face and a long, thin nose. Goldstein, formerly the most gifted leader of Ingsoc, is now the legendary foe of the party state. His precise whereabouts are unknown, so he is everywhere and nowhere to blame for any privations that citizens suffer in their everyday lives. During the 2 minutes hatred, people leap up and down, shout at the tops of their voices, and faces turn pink. Once a year, the regime also holds Hate Week, and the junior spies are turned out to sing the hate song. Thus, Ingsoc directs the anger of its citizens towards an enemy of the party, rather than those who actually cause the hardships and shortages. Indeed, the people of Smith's unnamed city struggle with bad food, dull clothing, and dilapidated tenements with truly Orwellian names like Victory Mansions. Conveniences of any sort are out of order, and buildings are ramshackle and unsafe. Yet the telescreens used to beam party propaganda work well because they serve Ingsoc, not the people. And should the people direct their anger towards those who caused, or at least failed to prevent, their hardships, then Ingsoc would be doomed. And that is an important lesson to remember. That wraps things up for this episode of The Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.